Adding a lining transforms any garment from basic to beautifully finished. But if you've ever stared at a pattern without lining pieces, wondering how to create your own, or struggled with linings that pucker, pull, or peek out where they shouldn't, you're about to learn how to fix that. By the end of this video, you'll know how to draft lining pieces for any garment and install them perfectly. Plus, I'll show you why skipping these techniques leaves your garments looking unfinished and feeling uncomfortable to wear. The magic of a well-sewn lining goes far beyond just hiding seam allowances. Think of it as the foundation garment for your outer fabric. It adds opacity when you need it, provides that smooth glide when you're putting on jackets and coats, and creates a barrier between your skin and potentially scratchy fabrics. But here's what most sewists don't realize. A lining should never be the exact same size as your outer garment. This seems weird at first, but there's real science behind it. For most garments, like skirts and dresses, your lining actually needs to be slightly larger than your shell. Picture trying to wear two identical t-shirts at the same time. The inner one would pull and restrict the outer one. The same thing happens with linings that are too tight. They create tension that shows up as pulling, puckering, and that rumpled look we all want to avoid. But here's where it gets interesting. Some garments actually need smaller linings. Vests, for example, work best when the lining is slightly smaller than the shell. Since the edges are exposed and the fit is more tailored, you want that lining to pull the outer fabric in just a touch, creating clean, crisp edges that curve toward your body instead of flapping outward. Let me show you exactly how to determine the right size for your specific project. For most patterns without lining pieces, you'll start with your main shell pieces as your template. For skirts and dresses, add about 1/8 to 1/4 inch at the side seams and hem. For fitted garments like this auto vest I'm working with, you'll actually subtract 1/4 inch from the length, both at the side seams and the center front, and remove the same amount from the neckline. This creates just enough ease for the lining to sit perfectly without any pulling or peeking. Now, the auto pattern actually comes with lining pieces already drafted, but I'm showing you this method because most patterns don't include them. Once you understand these principles, you can add a lining to absolutely anything in your wardrobe. The construction process starts with treating your shell and lining as two completely separate garments. Assemble each one fully so it looks like you have two almost identical garments. One will be in your outer shell fabric and one in your lining fabric. Pretty simple so far, right? Here's where the real technique comes in. We're going to attach the lining at the neckline first. Place your vest lining against the outer vest with right sides together, carefully aligning all your notches and seams. This step requires patience. Rushing here creates uneven edges that are hard to fix later. Pin thoroughly, then stitch at 3/8 inch, easing the lining onto the outer vest as you go. After clipping those curves, and this is crucial for a smooth finish, grade your seam allowances. This means trimming them to different lengths so they don't create bulk when pressed. Press everything toward the vest lining, which helps the seam roll slightly to the inside when turned. The armholes get the same treatment. Right sides together, align everything perfectly, then stitch at 3/8 inch. Here's a technique that makes all the difference. Understitch as far as possible along both the neckline and the armholes. This keeps the lining from rolling to the outside, which instantly elevates the finished look. Now comes what feels like a magic trick. Reach up through the hem edge of the back and pull both vest fronts out to turn the entire vest right side out. It seems impossible at first, but once you see how it works, you'll use this technique on everything. Now let's sew the side seams. Fold the outer vest up and away from the lining. Think of it like peeling back layers. With right sides together, align the side pieces of both the shell and the lining, matching all seams and notches perfectly. This is where precision really matters. Stitch, then press those seam allowances open for the flattest possible finish. For the hem, we're using a technique that creates a completely enclosed edge. Start with everything wrong sides out. Bring the outer vest and lining together at the front and hem edges, matching everything carefully. But here's the crucial part. Leave about a 4-inch gap in your stitching. This opening is your escape hatch for turning everything right side out. After trimming and grading those seam allowances and clipping the corners, turn the vest right side out through that gap. The transformation is incredible. Suddenly all those raw edges disappear and you have clean, finished edges everywhere. Press everything well, and I mean really well. This is where the difference between a good finish and a great one becomes obvious. Those seam lines should roll slightly toward the lining, creating that couture quality edge. The final step is edge stitching around the front, neckline, and hem edges. This not only looks beautiful, but also closes that gap at the back hem and keeps everything lying perfectly flat. The auto vest pattern makes a perfect introduction to lining because it has all the key elements: curves, fitted seams, and exposed edges, without the complexity of sleeves or elaborate closures. Once you master this technique, you'll find yourself adding linings to everything because the difference in how garments feel and look is just that dramatic. Now, you might be wondering how to adapt these lining techniques to different types of garments. Not every lining is sewn exactly the same. In fact, there's a whole world of lining techniques beyond what we've covered today. For jackets with sleeves and facings, you'll often need what's called a bagged lining, a completely different approach that creates that loose floating effect you see in high-end tailoring. In fact, our October skills workshop is all about sewing bagged linings. If you've been thinking about making a jacket for fall or winter but aren't confident about creating a gorgeous lining, Erica will lead you through it step by step this month. I'll put a link below so you can learn more. And if you're working on a sleeveless garment that doesn't have button closures like this vest, the burrito method creates the cleanest possible finish by essentially rolling the fabric out of the way as you work. It seems impossible, but it works like magic once you try it. Watch this video next to learn the burrito method that creates perfect finishes on sleeveless garments.